Carla Panciera is one of the primo authors. I want to call you a primo author because you're a writer, right? Like you have this stunning memoir out there, Barnflower, by the way. And if you haven't read Barnflower, after you finish reading, the Wisdom collection, you want to go find
Thank
Barnflower because as a writer, I'm jelly. I am like totally jealous of your
thank
of your
you.
writing, right? Like super envious of your skill set and how beautiful um, you lay words down on the page. So when you came into this collection and you chose to write a chapter, you had a very distinct core message. You had a very distinct piece of advice that served as the core message of this chapter.
Mhm.
How would you describe that?
Well, I guess at my core, I'm a writer. I mean, there are other things I wanted in my life, but this was just something I knew about myself. But I'm also a perfectionist, and I sort of set high standards for myself. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think it can be paralyzing at times. And I definitely felt that throughout my life, in general, I was not a risk taker. I was risk averse. And this piece of advice, although it was the best advice I ever received about writing, it turns out that it was a really great advice for life. And especially, it was like tailor-made for me. Just let it be bad. What is going to happen if something doesn't come out as perfectly, especially on the first try, as you thought it was going to? And honestly, it's been liberating to think that way. And I remind myself, I mean, I have to sit down today and do a serious revision on a novel that I just got comments back from an agent, and I'm terrified to do that. And the only thing that's going to make me sit down today is to say, okay, just do it and let it be bad, and he'll get back to you and he'll make you fix it even better, you know?
So why, like, I want to like come back to that because why is that so terrifying? You get these notes back on a piece that matters to you, and they've made really good suggestions. And in all likelihood, the suggestions when you're reading them, 90% of them make sense and they land for you. But what do you think about that process that is so terrifying for a writer?
Well, I think it's all in the abstract. So when I'm not with my manuscript and I'm out, in my normal life and I'm thinking about it, I can't imagine how I'm going to do all of this. And then actually I open the page, I turn the page, and then I think, oh, I can see this scene and I understand this. So it really is sort of putting your butt in the chair and doing the work. And I think, again, I think it's like that with everything in life. If you think you can't ski, but you've never actually gotten to, on to the bunny slope, you have no idea. And often getting to the bunny slope is the most terrifying part of your first day skiing, right? So I I know at this point, I've been writing for 40 something years, more than that. I know once I sit down, I'll figure some stuff out, but I just dread that first day. And then once I get through that and I get the abstractions out of the way and I just do the concrete task, I'm good.
I that gear grinding, right? Like for me, it's the gear grinding. Like, oh my God, so many problems. But the minute you address one problem, and get it behind you, and then the next problem, yes, new ones are going to crop up, right? But one of my girlfriends had absolutely struck the fear of God in me. She was working with an agent, and the agent had sent back, the first feedback on her novel, or I think it was a memoir. And the agent said, no, we're missing a layer. You need to, develop this layer. And then she wrote it, put the layer in. She sent it back, and the agent said, not quite there. Here's the other feedback, and you got to get it right because if it's not right, then I'm going to walk away.
Yeah.
So the advice was, you got to get it right away or within two shots. And when you're revising, and I think that it's like, I'm going to lose my chance
Right.
if I don't get this right. So one mistake is going to kill this opportunity that I've been working years for. And I realize for me, that's the story that sticks in the background. Like if I'm gonna change this up, I got two chances and I better hit it out of the park.
Yeah, I mean that's unfortunate that she had that agent. I don't know. This is my first time working with this agent. I don't know that, but I know that he wouldn't have taken the book if he didn't see something in it. And so I have that. Again, you know you you grab on to whatever lifeline you need to grab onto while you're doing the work, right? So I'm thinking, okay, he has some faith in this book. And ultimately, I have to remind myself, he wants the same thing I do. He wants to sell the novel. I want to sell the novel. He wants the novel to be better. So do I. Um, and then, and again, what choice do I have? I have to try it. And then maybe he is going to reject it. Maybe he's going to come back and say, try again. But, you
Yeah.
know,
I,
I feel like I'm in a competitive business and I'm in a brutal business. And if you can't handle rejection, you shouldn't write because it is 90% of that, so.
yes, so much rejection. So you made a comment about this mindset of just let it be bad showing up in other areas of your life. And the first book that comes to mind is Carol Dweck's mindset. It's the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And it's part of this is developing a growth mindset. How is it showing up in other areas of your life where you know this is just how you have to approach things?
Um, well, I was a teacher for 30 years, and I think, sometimes you want to try something new. You have an intuition or a sense about it, and you're thinking, all right, if I get to a certain point with a class and I feel that I have a basic level of trust, they have a basic level of trust in me, really, and I'll say, you know what, I'm going to try this. And I might announce it to them even. I'm going to say, look, this isn't working, so we're going to try this today. And then you tell me. Tell me if this works, or tell me how we tweak this, right? And I think letting it be bad too opens you up to accepting feedback about it. So I don't go into my class or, when I'm talking to my daughters about giving them advice or I'm trying a new recipe, I don't go in saying, I'm going to get it right the first time. I say, I'm going to maybe let it be bad, but I'm also going to be open to the critique afterwards. I want the feedback. And you don't get to be better at anything in your life unless you open yourself up to that. And because I'm a writer, that just is my life. It's a cycle of feedback and revision, feedback and revision. And you have to steel yourself to hear some things you might not want to hear. And as a parent, that's a really good thing when my daughters say to me, Mom, I'm not sure you went about that the right way with us. I think this would have been a better way to have the conversation. Now, it's not saying it's not painful, but it's helpful because then you revise, and that's the point. And the same thing in teaching. When I said to a class one time they weren't speaking, and I was like, okay, tell me how we're going to do this better. What can you tell me? Why aren't you talking in class? And one of the things they said was, in a writing circle, I would say, okay, does anybody want to read their poem that they wrote today? And all the kids would just kind of sit. And finally, somebody said to me, when you ask the question that way, we feel like if we volunteer, that what we're saying is, oh, my piece is really good. I want you to hear it. And we don't want to say that. So if you call us by name and say, do you want to go or do you want to pass? That would be so much more helpful. And that launched me into this amazing experience in these workshops where kids would actually share. So again, yeah, let it be bad. The class was bad. Nobody was talking. Okay, so how do we all, work through that?
I wrote about risk aversion because so terrified of making a mistake and destroying something or disappointing somebody.
Right.
And then there's another author, his name is 𝘠𝘪𝘵, who has the most fascinating take on risk, on taking risks, and on just launching into an idea and running with it and flowing with it. And one of the comments that he had made that like I would study this guy's brain because it's so different than mine. Like I'm so afraid that I'm going to just screw it up. Is, like I asked him, do you finish every project that you start out on? And he goes, no, sometimes I'm like, I'll chase an idea down the road and I'll work it and I'll work it. And sometimes I hit an impasse. And when I hit an impasse, I know the difference between an impasse because it doesn't have legs.
Mhm.
versus, oh, it's gotten hard and I got to problem solve and whatnot. But some of the things that he's done and his total lack of fear and a total lack of, like making a mistake in front of anybody. He just like doesn't care. And I'm not sure if it's a faith, like, he's like a Franciscan monk too, and an
Yeah,
Episcopal
well,
and a priest. So there's that faith thing. But the number of people who are writing about their fear of making a mistake or not being good enough or that perfectionism, and perfectionism is that, of course, that disguise for, I got to make sure I get it right, that people see me in a particular light. So there are some stuff I know
yeah,
when you
yeah.
read it, it's going to be fascinating.